Hi everyone. You all in the back of the couches, I'm very far away. I brought some, so recently, since I first started teaching on this subject a couple years ago, there have been some big articles that have come out about it. So there's, in the back of the handout, there's some clips from them, and for anyone who wants, the two of the articles that I have in their final forms, one of them I have only in an under progress form, I brought printouts, so if anyone gets bored of my talking, you can read those. And I'll get to them at the end, but you can take them at the end, or I'm happy to also send you. One of them is totally published. This one, I might have to ask the author before I send it to you, but he's a member of Torat Chayim. This is by Rabbi Iyun who teaches all over in Israel. He's also a community rabbi in Beit Shemesh. I think he says the end. I think he's in Beit Shemesh. Okay, so we're talking about women saying Sheva Brachot. So for me, my personal investment in this is that you have a wedding which involves people of, in at least a standard Orthodox wedding, you have men and women present, and then there's almost no place for women. Even under the chuppah, the bride traditionally says no words, and you can give kibbudim to all these different people. So every man in your life can be a witness, or you can say this or that, and they can do things that can affect real spiritual change for the couple that are getting married. So part of the project that I feel very passionately about are finding lots and lots of spaces for women, and if ever you are involved with someone who is trying to make a wedding, totally halachic Orthodox wedding, and who wants to give honors to their friends, I'm happy to go through a list with them of all these different places that we found to sneak women in as kind of creatively as possible, and find speaking roles and not speaking roles. We had very proudly my husband's grandmother grew up on the south side of Chicago. I was told growing up by a bacher in the Skokie yeshiva that she had the brain of a man, which at the time she took as a compliment. Yeah, exactly. She tells it to me now. She's I don't know how I feel about that anymore. What's her name? Her name is now Betty Rosenfeld. And so she read our ketubah. What?
She had more than a brain.
Yeah, exactly. So she read the ketubah at our wedding. She was wheeled up by one of the grandchildren, read the ketubah. It was a really amazing moment for us. And anyways, also to say, finding spots for women in wedding ceremonies, when there's women in your life who've really influenced you, feels to me a very important project. So we're going to be exploring could the Sheva Brachot at various times. So when do we say Sheva Brachot? Here we go. Take it back. Thank you. So when do we say Sheva Brachot? So we say Sheva Brachot for the first time under the chuppah, and then after that we say them at meals where there are 10 people, and there are 10, or let's say traditionally 10 adult Jewish men who make up a quorum for the purpose of saying Sheva Brachot at a meal. And except for Shabbat, you need a new person, a person who wasn't at the wedding before, hasn't celebrated yet with the Chatan and Kala, and then you will, at this meal, you'll say Sheva Brachot. Okay, so let's take a look at kind of the core Sheva Brachot text from the Talmud Bavli. That's source number 1. Amar Yichalmo, Amar Rav Huna, Amar Rabbi Abba Bar Zalda, Amar Rav, Achad Betula v'Achad Almanat Tuna Bracha. So whether you're marrying a not previously married woman, and whether you're marrying a widow, the benediction needs to be recited. So what is this benediction? Rashi hops in and says Tuna Bracha Birkat Chatanim. So this is the blessing of bridegrooms. So the woman, it seems from the Gemara here, right? The woman is the one who needs the blessing, but the blessing is named after the groom. It's kind of an interesting. I don't have much to make out of that, but if you have an idea, I'm happy to hear it. Anyway, so Gufa Amar. So there's a long dot in here. It's a pretty this tiny paragraph that I brought for here comes over 3 sides of a page in the Talmud. But so okay, a lot of stuff happened in between. Gufa Amar Nachman. Right. So Rav Nachman says, Amar li Huna bar Natan. Huna bar Natan said to me, Tana, that is taught, Minayin lebirkat chatanim basara. So how do we know that Sheva Brachot or birkat chatanim needs to be said with a minyan of 10? Shana Amar veikach asara nashim ziknei ha'ir. So as it says in Ruth, Boaz took 10 men from the elders of the city. Vayomer shrupo, and he said to them, sit you here. And the verse goes on to say, and they sat. Okay, so that's one opinion of why you need 10 for Sheva Brachot, and the assumption of the verse is that this is Boaz kind of collecting the people in order to effectuate his marriage with Ruth, and the Gemara is assuming, what did they do? He got 10 people together. What did they do in that gathering? They said Sheva Brachot, obviously. Shouldn't you read that in Megillah Ruth? Yeah. Okay, and Rabbi Yavo says, no, let's say it from here. So in assemblies, in Makilot, bless God, the Lord from the source of Israel, and we learn from assemblies that you need, when you're going to say a bracha of this caliber, a bracha as kind of a foundational, as mikori, as from the source, as this bracha, you need an assembly. We learn that from Tehillim. So then we have, okay, and when do you need 10 to make Sheva Brachot? So all 7 days of celebrations for the bride and groom, you need 10 in order to make these brachot. And then Rav Yehuda adds in, Rav Yehuda v'hu shebal panim chadashot. And this is that if you've added in extra people. So that's what we said at the beginning, right? We still kind of practice that on day 3 after the wedding. You want to have Sheva Brachot, you have to invite someone who wasn't at the wedding who's going to come and celebrate with you. And I don't think I brought in. Oh, I did. Yeah. Okay. Just source number 7 kind of gives a reason for that. So the Ran says, so if there's new people, then you say all 7 blessings, because for these people who haven't been there before, for whom it's new, it's as if it's like the beginning of the marriage for them. And so they're saying these Sheva Brachot as if yes, the wedding just happened for us, so we're coming in now, and we're gonna and that's gonna now that's not the handout. That's just fun reading if you want to take it.
I do, but somebody needs one here.
Okay, but that's not gonna help you. I don't know if there's I don't know that I printed out enough. Oh, tzaddik, thank you. Okay. Right. So why? It's a funny thing, right? This panim chadashot make a difference, but they do, and the Gemara says they do, so they do. But also, the Rad brings in this nice reasoning that for the people who have just joined, it's as if the shiur has just begun. It's as if the wedding is basically coming into effect now, happening now. Okay, so we still are left with all of these questions, who's making these brachot? If you had just read the Gemara as I gave it to you, who do you think makes the bracha? You can argue it many different ways. So try it out.
The men.
Okay, why?
Because they did everything.
Okay, that's not a textual argument, but someone want to make an argument based on the Gemara, yeah. So that means the 10 gathered there need to be men, but who's the one making it? How do we know the one making it needs to be men? Yeah, please.
Oh, I was going to suggest that it's the woman who needs it made, but perhaps she has it done by man as her agent in some fashion.
Okay.
From the very first pass.
Right, so she's the one who needs it. So meaning usually, right? Let's say
she would say it herself.
I'm right. So on Leah, I have a need for some halachic thing to happen. I don't know, it's the end of Shabbat, and I need havdalah. If I have that need, then I can do it for myself. Right? Usually that's the way halachic needs work, just standardly, right? I want to eat this apple, I need to make a ha'etz, I can make the ha'etz in order to eat the apple. And it would be very confusing if I couldn't do that for myself. Havdalah was actually there are women who feel like they need men to make havdalah for them, but that's another shiur. So we have an argument that it's the woman, or where you started out was the woman is the one who needs it, but the man is the one who makes it.
That's sort of looking, after the fact.
But what's the argument for the man is the one who makes it? You could say that actually resolves the tension of the woman is the one who's te'una bracha, she's the one who needs it, but what's the bracha called? Chatanim. So she needs it, but he's the one who makes it, maybe. But then you still have the chatan is the one who's making it. Have you ever seen a chatan make the Sheva Brachot for themselves? Never, right? Never. And so whose bracha is it? Who's the one making the bracha? What's another option? And how would you argue it from the text? Rabbanit, do you have a suggestion?
No, I can't. I don't have an answer. I'm saying it's a good question. But increasingly, there are men who are doing the Birchas Arison.
Yeah, the Birkat heirs. And so I was just clarifying what you're saying. The
So
Birkat heirs.
it could be
are
the
another-
community,
yeah.
presumably. doing
Right.
it
Okay.
for
So
them.
that's another option. It could be the community, and that
Opening
cuts to what
them,
you were
and
saying
then the
before.
question is, what is a community?
But but it also would account then for why you even need a community, right? Right, a man or woman, like a halachic man, two of halachically observant men and women are stuck on a desert island by themselves. They're not related to each other. You think there's no way for them to get married on that desert island and like repopulate the earth? I don't know, right? That's like if you need 10 in order to do Sheva Brachot, if you need 10 in order to Sheva Brachot, and you need Sheva Brachot in order to be married, then your desert island is the end. It's the end.
That's why they're married. There's no yichud.
Right, I mean, I don't know, it's complicated, I don't know, right, but if there's no one there to see them in Yichud, is it really Yichud? Is it Yichud without Edom? I don't know. These are all fantastic questions. Okay, anyways, right, so from the Gemara, you have a lot of questions. You could really argue it anyway. You could say, from the fact that we need a community, it's a community member who makes the bracha, and the community is what brings the bracha into being, and that's what we saw also with the panim chadashot. And you could even say with the requirement of panim chadashot, who's the one who makes? You could read it out from here. Who's the one who makes the bracha on the third night when you're having a Sheva Brachos?
The new person.
The new person, right? Because the bracha is actually for the new person. So maybe they should be the one to they created the obligation. They should be the one to dispense of it. Everyone else, maybe they've already heard these brachot already for this couple, so maybe they're not even obligated anymore. I don't know. I've never heard anyone say that, but you could construct such an argument. It wouldn't be so crazy to say that. We've had argument for the women, argument for the men, argument for the community, and the Gemara seems like we don't really know. Let's add in another source. So this source is from Tractate Kala. It's from the Masachet Kala is one of the Masachto Ktanot. It's like a Amaraic Baraita kind of thing. It's a little confusing what the Masachto Ktanot are. All I'll say is that if you look at part B of source 2, so I bring in a Gemara from Shabbat, which just shows you that Masachet Kala is something that the Gemara seems to know about, because you have a Gemara that says Amar Rabbi Yochanan Ezer Talmid Chacham Shmuel to Parnas Al HaTzibur, who is the Torah scholar who can be appointed to be leader of the community, Zeh Shesholino To Davar Halacha B'Kol Makom, someone who you can ask matters of halacha on any topic, Ve'omer, and he's able to answer, Ve'afilu B'Masachet Kala, even in Masachet Kala. So you could say, the Gemara, what they're calling Masachet Kala is something different from what we have. You could make an argument like that, but you could also make an argument that the Gemara had this set of texts, even though the texts we're about to read, it does not appear in the Gemara. I mean, the Gemara does not quote this text, it doesn't bring it in as a Breita or a Meimar or anything like that, but it does, but the Rishonim reading the Gemara do have this text and do kind of bring it in as a way to interpret the Gemara. So this text is very important, so let's look at it a little bit slowly together. Okay, Kala below bracha asura leba'ala kenida. A bride without the blessing is prohibited to her husband the way a menstruous woman is prohibited to her husband. Manida shelo tavla asura leba'ala. So just as a menstruous woman who has not gone to the mikvah is prohibited to her husband, af kala below bracha asura leba'ala. So too, a bride without her blessing is prohibited to her husband. And then they say, and then this part a little bit is in the Gemara, Minayin lebirkat chatanim min ha-Torah, or we had a question similar to this. Where do we see the blessing of the Sheva Brachot, the birkat chatanim in the Torah? Shenamar v'yivarchu et Rivka v'yomar la achotinu ati la'alfei rava v'yirash zarcha et shar sonav. So they blessed Rivka and said to her, "You are a sister. Be you the mother of thousands of 10,000s, and let your seed possess the gates of those which hate them." So they give, when Rivka is leaving the house to go off to Isaac, Rebecca is going off to Isaac, her family gives her this blessing. So this is now the source for Sheva Brachot. That's a very interesting model, because who is absent when Rebecca is getting this blessing? Isaac. Yeah. So it's a little strange, right? But I mean, it doesn't.
It would be consistent with the idea that it's the kahal that says it, or like the panim chadashot. It would be consistent that it's not the chatan that says it, or the
kala that says it.
But
right,
if they're not
exactly.
there.
Right.
No, I mean it's a strange.
It doesn't answer that question.
Source.
It's just consistent with the idea that
Agreed.
the community says it.
Maybe you're right. Maybe right. Okay, you could say right. The servant is there with Rebecca, so that's
If you want to read a halachic argument,
yeah, that's nice. Thank you.
That sometimes.
Yeah, All right, thank you, Rabbi Blinsky. Okay, but let's jump back into this for a second. A bride without her blessing is prohibited to her husband as if she's menstruous. So what is now the status of this blessing? What is this blessing actually doing? That's a question we didn't quite get to ask on the Gemara. What's this blessing doing? Right, so it's purifying her.
Yeah.
Right?
It's moving her status.
Yeah, Riley?
I don't know, the question though, when it says she's like a nida in terms of prohibition, so is it purifying or is it permitting?
Or had.
Yeah, or not to.
Yeah, maybe they had to.
No, but I don't know, I hadn't thought of it the way you thought of it before, that it's also playing out a little bit of that element, which changes the whole perspective.
You look at the
But-
content
but-
Yeah.
of the.
Yeah.
It's both. That's both.
But let's say, but if we go with yours for a minute, you get to this interesting place. Because let's say the kala is nida. Are they married?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're married.
Right.
So maybe they're married, but she's just like, but they can't have sex maybe until there's Sheva Brachot. That's kind of interesting. Let's get another read on this if anyone has one.
I was
Yeah.
looking at it in the light of the way you looked at the first text where you said the kala is the one who needs the bracha. Well, if we line this up with the third of the Sheva Brachas, she'asar lanu et ha'arusot, v'hirtir lanu et ha'nesuot lanu, that bracha is talking to a man, and it says...
That's a different, just to like clarify our terms, that's Birkat Irsin. That's not Sheva Brachot.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So that could be a
But-
year apart, those things.
But
Yeah.
both of them agree that the woman may well be perfectly fine without this bracha, and it's the bridegroom who's really waiting enthusiastically for it to be
Good.
over.
Good. Okay, that's exactly right. So, right, so it seems like this blessing is like, it's as if like, this is a little bit of like a crass metaphor, but like, she's the apple and he's the person who wants to eat the apple, so he's making a blessing and now he's allowed to eat the apple. Right, because it's hard to come up with exactly like, when does a blessing transform something from prohibited to permitted? And I think in some ways Birkot HaNanin are like from, I don't know, like we're about to see a Rishon who says like this is not a thing, but but in some ways you can see, right, like there are Birkot HaNanin transform food from kind of inedible objects into edible objects, and it's not so often that you see a bracha that's like that acts as a matir in that way, that acts as like a, unless someone always like anxious making these statements around the
You don't say a bracha before you give tzedakah to a poor person.
But that's because
it's
it's between human beings.
Right, we don't
That's
say
why
that
That's
that's
what's
between
weird. So that's even weirder about it.
Yeah.
It's weirder because you never make the bracha
for
for
things between
But
people.
the cow
Yeah,
is to una a bracha. Sounds
Right,
like, well,
exactly.
maybe an ani's to una bracha.
Yeah.
We know it's
Could
not,
be,
but
yeah.
it's odd.
Oh, do we have a comment over here?
No.
Okay, great. Aw. Okay, so now we have, but this source complicates it, right? So because the Gemara was like a little bit more ambiguous. Whose blessing is it? Who really needs it? Here it seems, I tend to agree with your read that here it seems like the groom needs the blessing, and it's a blessing that maybe even in that case, right? It could be a blessing that the groom wouldn't make, or if someone else is making the blessing, then they're making the blessing for the groom. But this is like a man blessing, to like kind of put it like a little bit more crassly. But then what this does not address is, okay, that maybe might address the Sheva Brachot the first time. Let's say we're under the chuppah, we're making that first set of Sheva Brachot. But what about the rest of the Sheva Brachot that we make, right? That doesn't actually fit into this model set out in Masachet Kala. So it could be that there's actually just two different kinds of Sheva Brachot things that we're doing. So if we run with the Ran that we saw a minute ago, right? So you would have the first set of Sheva Brachot are permitting this bride to the husband, and so therefore the husband needs the Sheva Brachot, and they are like fulfilling something for him. And then all the Sheva Brachot that might transpire after that could just be like, oh, you showed up, we're going to have like a little mini wedding for you, new person who missed the big event. Now we're going to say Sheva Brachot as like celebration with you. That might be a way to think about it. Okay, so the other question about Masachet Kala is, it doesn't get quoted in the Talmud. How authoritative is this text? And you could really take that in many different directions, and people really have. So even if you want to read this in a kind of very strict reading of this Breita, or this, whatever it is, this piece of Masachet Kala means that the brachot that are being made on behalf of the husband, and they're like fulfilling something for him, and therefore anyone who's going to make them for him maybe needs to be a man. You still are left with the question of how authoritative is this text. Like, just because this text says that and seems to imply it, doesn't actually mean we like necessarily need to follow it. And part of that question, a way to test that question is whether, let's go back to like our desert island, could you effectuate a marriage without Sheva Brachot? So meaning, you get married, there's no minyan. The Gemara is we saw a bunch of sources in the Gemara about a minyan needed for Sheva Brachot. You get married, there's no minyan, whatever, it's something terrible happened. If you don't have any friends, I don't know, whatever. And just kidding, we would try and make that happen for you. Call me if that looks like it's going to be your life. What would you do? So, that's like the next. So that question, actually, maybe we'll just jump to it since we're not going to get to all these sources anyways. So we'll flip to page 2, source 5. The Beit Shmuel. The Beit Shmuel is like. Did you have a question?
Yeah. I'm trying to figure out if the Sheva Brachot at the chuppah are to make the bride allowable, fulfilled for the groom, and in a sense even maybe has purifying effect, then what about the next day of Sheva Brachot? Like, why all of a sudden is she prohibited to him, and why do you have? And then are you redoing it that second time for him, or?
For the person that wasn't there.
Right. So you would have to argue that there's a different
what's the function
status.
of it, the second, third, fourth.
So I suggested like a few minutes ago that maybe you're like holding a mini wedding for like the Panim Chadashot people.
But again, still, what is the function of those brachot? If it's not having a function, then.
I mean, often we say brachot that are like, there's a whole category of brachot that are like Birkat HaShavach, like gratitude brachot. Brachot that we say in order to be like, wow, isn't God amazing? And honestly, if you read the Sheva Brachot, like, that's kind of what the words mean. The words are like, this institution is outstanding. And so I think that's like a fairly straightforward read of the Sheva Brachot is that they're a Birkat HaShavach, and here we're kind of changing them into being a technical, like, kind of heter sort of, I don't know exactly what the right word is, but anyways, we're putting them in a more technical place than the words themselves of the Brachot would seem to imply. So I think it's an easier read to, like, what I'm reading onto the rest of the next, whatever, days of Sheva Brachot is in some ways an easier read than what Masachet Kala is trying to say about that first one.
Right, which is
Doesn't answer
odd
your question.
itself in the other direction.
Yes, agreed. Yeah. Okay. Actually, let's read the Mordechai. Mordechai's going to quote, so that's source number 3. The Mordechai's going to quote the Rosh Mishatz, who is like a late Tosafist. He's the main student of the Ri. And he's just going to have this really interesting read on the Masachet Kala source. That I think is important to just like introduce. This is like pretty early, like pretty authoritative. He's saying, so it seems like a bride without her blessing is prohibited. Hainu below chuppah. What that means is without having entered into the marriage canopy or the house of her husband. Ela denaka below bracha. It just says below bracha if you show sim bracha b'shah nesuin, because we make the bracha at the time when we're doing the nesuin. So what we do under the chuppah is actually 2 different activities. We have Erusin, which is the engagement, and then we have like a little break where often we read the ketubah, and then we do nesuin, which is the marriage. And so the nesuin is effectuated by like being under the chuppah and saying these brachot. And the question is, like, what's actually doing the thing? And here the Rosh Mishan's quoted in the Mordechai is saying what's doing the thing is the chuppah. Yeah. And the fact that we call it, and you could do a chuppah, two people on a desert island, you could effectuate, possibly at least you could effectuate a chuppah.
So what does he mean by the word chuppah? When he says the chuppah, what technically is he referring to?
What? Were you going to suggest something?
No.
Oh, okay. So, I mean, it could mean what we mean by chuppah, or it could mean, like, yichud. There's a lot of different options.
So we don't really know what he means.
That's why we do a lot of
He
it.
just means
the thing we don't know what the this means.
Yeah, but it's not the bracha. That's what I can say to you for sure. Okay, v'ikar davar talui b'chuppah. D'chol biat ersin k'biat znuti. So the main thing is tied into the chuppah because all like sex with the person you're engaged to is licentious sex. Kol zman shelo nichnasa l'chuppah before they've like fully gotten married. Aval misha nichnasa l'chuppah, but once they've fully gotten married, hari keishol l'chol davar. Then she's his wife in every way. Vafiu below bracha, and even if no bracha is mentioned, and then he says, I said this outside a minute ago, we've never seen that a bracha holds you back from like doing something. It's never like, oh, I picked up we do the opposite of this. We're lulav and etrog, we pick the etrog up upside down because we want to say the bracha before we do it, and if you would pick the etrog up right side up, then like, it would be too late already to say the bracha. You would have done the mitzvah already, and we want to say the bracha first, right? So here we're saying no, like the bracha holds back the thing, and it's like the bracha would never hold back the thing. That's what he's saying. Right? So if you're on your desert island, like would it occur to you that if there's not 10 people in the whole country, like that you wouldn't get married because Sheva Brachot needs to happen with a group of 10? Like no, that's crazy. Signed Rosh Hashanah.
Why isn't that latter case considered Shas Chag?
So maybe it is. Good question. Do I have it on here?
Yes.
The where we define what a Shabbat is? Yeah, here. Okay, let's go to source number 5. We'll come back to the Shulchan Aruch in a minute. So the Beit Shmuel, so just in terms of the question of like how authoritative is the Masachet Kala, so I mentioned before the test case for that would be what if you don't have 10? So the Rashi Shabbat is going to say you don't have 10, good, you don't need Sheva Brachot anyways, the chuppah is what does it, you're done. So here's like a later source, like a modern source to Beit Shmuel, and he's going to say basically the same thing, but he's going to say like you really should try and have it. So he's a commentator on the Shulchan Aruch, so he's quoting the Shulchan Aruch that says you need 10 people. Makom Dalika Asara, or source 5, in a place where there's no 10, Ein Lasot Nisuin, you shouldn't get married. That's what the Rashba says. King could have a Rashba. But Piskei Maharai, so this is he's quoting the Trumat Hadeshin. Cholik al Zeh, he disagrees with this, and the Beit Yosef he schemed the Divrei HaRashba, but the Beit Yosef agrees with the Rashba, who says, right, so, okay, just to line it up, right, the Rashba says you shouldn't get married, Trumat Hadeshin says you should, Beit Yosef agrees with the Rashba, but Darkei Moshe Katav Ein Dvarav Nir'in, but the Darkei Moshe, that's the Ramah, he says that the language of the Beit Yosef doesn't make any sense, right, so we have you have Ashkenaz versus Sfarad, it lines up, pretty obviously. So you have the Rashba and the Beit Yosef and the Trumat Hadeshin and the Darkei Moshe lining up. Good. Okay. In Dvarav Nir'in, Ela in habrachot ma'akvin. Right. So it seems like the bracha really doesn't hold back the marriage. Miu lachatchila yesh lizaher lahader achar asara. But really, you should be careful and you should go make sure that there's 10 people. V'im yefshar ba'asara ela b'torach gadol have k'diavad. And if you can't get 10 except for with extraordinary effort, then that makes it a b'diavad case. So that makes it a case where you can't do it and you don't need it. But the fact of the matter is that meaning if you would never say oh it's b'diavad you can't get 10 so you can sleep with your Nida wife, right? If it were really Nida, with the prohibition is a karet level, that's a very serious thing, you would never say oh, but yeah, then it's fine. You never say, but yeah, then it's fine. No Nida, basically. Okay, I'm not going to say that blanketly, but often we do not say that in Nida. Okay, so I have 5 seconds left. Great. No, I have 5 minutes left. Yeah. Okay, so now the tachlis kind of question comes to be. So there's a few different questions about whether women can say this. So the first person to write about this, I think, kind of explicitly is Rabbi Yehuda Henkin, and he points out this really interesting thing, which is that we're going to do this a little out of order again. Okay, let's start in source 8, and then we're going to skip back to source 4. Sorry, I thought I was going to give this shiur in a different order than I did. Okay, so in source 8 you have the Rambam talking about Birkat Chatanim, and he's going to say, and he says, right, this Sheva Brachot that you make in the house of a newly married couple, right, so in the house of a newly married couple, you say Sheva Brachot, Mevarchim Birkat Chatanim, V'kol Suda V'suda Shochlim Sham, and every meal that you eat there, V'in Mevarchim Bracha Zu, Lo Avadim V'lo Ktanim. So slaves and minors cannot recite this blessing. Okay, great. Who's missing from the list of slaves and minors?
Women.
Yes, very noticeably. Yeah, Dasha.
Could it be that it was so obvious that women obviously are allowed, so we don't need to
It could be. You could always read it that way. That it's totally I can't really argue with you on that. But interestingly, right, the shulchan. But you don't know. Meaning most things.
Mostly it does.
Most things you wouldn't see that.
Right.
But if you wanted to read that way, great. But most things where you see a prohibition on avadim and ketanim, you see women also. That's like the three kind of low class categories. And the Shulchan Aruch carries this language over. So you'll see this also in so go back to source 4 now. Sorry. It's more fun if you have to flip a lot, right? Okay, so let's source 4.
Thank you.
And within source 4, you have sections 1, 4, and 5. And let's look at just section 5. So in section 5, we're talking about like the rest of the week now. Mevarchim berkat chatanim b'veit chatanim achar berkat hamazon b'kol suda v'suda she'ochlim sham. So he's basically quoting the Rambam. Every meal that you eat in that, you eat with the newly married couple, you can say this blessing. Ve'im mevarchim brachazo lo avadim lo ketanim. And slaves and minors cannot make this blessing. So he carries over the same strange kind of language of slaves and minors, which seems to leave open this like gaping hole of women. So that's what Rabbi Henkin, I brought him on the back, on the last 2 pages. He's the one in English of my it's like old school copy paste, except I did it on the computer, so I don't know whether that makes me a millennial or not. So he basically says this, right? He's reading the Rambam and the Shulchan Aruch and saying, yeah, it's really strange that women are left out of this, but just for, to be, we'll just read the last paragraph, on the very last page of Rabbi Henkin. The clear sense of the Rambam and the Shulchan Aruch then is that women can recite any of the Sheva Brachot. However, just because we imagine something does not mean we can act on it. Rabbi Henkin's not, his bottom line is that women shouldn't say Sheva Brachot. But he does kind of lay out this framework. So that's kind of framework number 1. If you're looking for a technical, permissive thing, you could look at the Shulchan Aruch and you could look at the Rambam. One important thing to note is that the times where you see them speaking in this way about minors and slaves, but not women, it's always in not the ones at the chuppah, but the ones for the rest of the week. And so I think a reasonable argument would be to say that they have the sensitivity towards Masachet Kala, and what they're saying there is that the first one maybe is an obligation of the groom, and for the groom to dispense that obligation, it needs to be done. It's like a masculine obligation, therefore it needs to be done by a man. But that's only the first one, and for all the rest of the ones, argument from silence in the Rambam and the Shulchan Aruch, women could participate equally. This does not mean, however, Rabbi Henkin would not say. And that women can count as the minion for Sheva Brachot. He would still say, right, when the Gemara says you need asara, that is asara men. That opinion is not agreed upon by everyone, so I brought this article here and a quote from Rabbi Tzvi Reisman. And he's going to say, so there's an argument about whether, his argument is that women could even count as part of the tzibur, part of the 10. He is this Haredi guy who owns a cosmetics conglomerate and writes Torah on the side, and he seems really cool. I never heard of him before I read this article, and I looked him up. But he seems really great, and just an interesting kind of Torah personality who's around in the world now. So you can kind of read this, but what his argument is that what you're doing when you say Sheva Brachot, even the first ones, he doesn't differentiate, is that you're gathering together a group of people to kind of just like a rabbim, a massive people, the way you need a massive people for Kiddush Hashem, and for there's certain other mitzvot in this category, and that it's not creating an Eidah or Tzibur, it's creating a rabbim, and that rabbim could be made up of women, and therefore women can both be part of this count up to 10 and also make the brachot, and the reason for that is that what you're doing is, and I'll flip back to this other Rambam I brought to you, source number 6, right? What is this blessing that you're making? The Rambam here says, right, what's the point of Sheva Brachot? Rambam here says, mitzvah aseh shel divrei l'sameach hachatan v'hakala. It is a positive commandment, a positive rabbinic commandment to make the groom and bride happy, l'sa'adam v'chol tzarchayim, to have a meal with them, provide for their needs. Ve'elohem gemilut chasadim shebegufo she'in lahem shiur. And these are physical actions of kindness, and there's no measure. You should do infinitely much of them. You've never fulfilled your obligation. You should always do more. And the Rambam goes on, and even though maybe this is a rabbinic commandment, this is a part of the obligation of loving your fellow as yourself. Anything you want others to do for you, you should do that for anyone who's your brother and Torah mitzvot. So if you say that Sheva Brachot and being Mesamech Chatan Kala, bringing joy to the bride and groom, are part of a mitzvah of V'ahavta l'recha kamocha, well, who's obligated in V'ahavta l'recha kamocha? Everybody. Everybody. And therefore any commandment of V'ahavta l'recha kamocha that needs to happen in public, well, who can constitute the public for that? Women can constitute the public for that, and therefore and also play active roles. You do have this question of, is Sheva Brachot a davar shebekdusha? So it's listed in that there's a I didn't bring it for you, but there's a Mishnah in Masachet Megillah that lists all the things that need 10 people for. And most of those things we would say, like the normative halacha would say, women cannot do. When you want to, but one of those things on that list is Sheva Brachot. So how do you say that Sheva Brachot is different? So two things I want to present to you. One is, I brought you the Aruch HaShulchan on the bottom of page 3, source 9, and he just says explicitly, V'aval gad delav davar shebekdushahu kekadesh b'kedusha. Right, so he says explicitly, Sheva Brachot is not a davar shebekdusha like Kaddish or Kedusha would be. The Shita Mekubete, which is obviously earlier than the Aruch HaShulchan, he disagrees. He calls explicitly Birkat Chatanim a davar shebekdusha. So if you wanted to go that direction, you would have definitely someone to rely on to say, no, absolutely not, and that would be the Shita Mekubete. But the model that Rabbi Henkin writes about and that others rely on, I think Rabbi Yoni Rosenzweig also writes about this, is Birkat HaGomel. And with this I'll conclude. I'm only 1 minute over time already, sorry. Yeah, I know, and I prepared a full shiur, but whatever. So Birkat HaGomel is another example where you need a minyan of 10. The Gemara says you need 10 for Birkat HaGomel. Later on we say maybe not exactly, but ideally you want a minyan of 10, but a woman can do it. But with a minyan that she doesn't count for. So we have so to say there's a model of something needs a minyan of 10 men, but the woman can do something that requires that minyan, but she's not part of it. So Kaddish, so mourner's Kaddish, I would say, and Birkat HaGomel are the other examples. And so the argument for Sheva Brachot would be that Sheva Brachot is similar to that. Sheva Brachot is along those lines that for this activity or like whatever. For this religious activity to transpire, you need a minyan of 10 men. That's just like how we constitute something important, something that's communal. The representation of the community is like a minyan of 10 men. But like women can still benefit from the existence of that minyan through their ability to say Kaddish, Birkat HaGomel, or here we would argue Sheva Brachot. If you say the
Birkat HaGomel, she's saying for herself.
Right.
Whereas Sheva Brachot, she's saying for someone else.
So
Kaddish also someone else.
Well, both.
So there's a few ways to respond to that. One is that she too has an obligation of l'sameach chatan kala, so it's actually on her. It's her. She's fulfilling an obligation that is hers as well. Here, I think that's the most simple way to answer that. A few kind of practical things that I'll just end with. One is. I'm happy to send these sources to anyone who's interested to read people who have much broader shoulders than I do, on whom you can rely. So certainly Rabbi Reisman, you could say women can count for the minyan, and could probably say them under the chuppah. Rabbi Yoni Rosenzweig, I handed that out already to somebody. He would say not under the chuppah, but yes at the meal, but cannot count for the minyan, he would say. There's an article kind of forthcoming, I don't know whether it's been published yet, by Rav Bigman of Mali Gilboa and Yossi Slavnik, I think that's his last name.
Yeah, he's also at Mali Gilboa.
Also at Mali Gilboa on this subject as well. One thing that is important is that when you're having Sheva Brachot at a meal, so I haven't seen anyone, to my recollection, I'm almost done. I haven't seen anyone who says, one of the Sheva Brachot at the meal is typically the person who leads benching, who then makes the bracha on the wine at the end. So when you're leading benching with a group of 10, that's like a whole nother question about whether women could lead that kind of zimun. That would then require minyan of 10 in order to add the name of God into that zimun. So even if you were going to have women say Sheva Brachot based on like some of what I presented to you today, it's a whole nother conversation to have a woman lead the zimun that would then have you saying the Bori Pregafen at the end of the Sheva Brachot. Yeah, please.
A strong proof for you that Udo Rosenberg, who was a tremendous
I
protege
see them every week.
to the Monarch
And you write down everything you had.
Talmud of Bar for fourth there above it, and the Talmud of Brachot. So he says, based on the Rambam, that the Sheva Brachot of the week, the whole, what's the heter for saying Sheva Brachot during the week?
It's depending on
Just
what
until I thought it was
Therefore, on that basis, wouldn't you do it? But it's totally not on the Rab, it's totally on the Chassan and Kala.
wanting
It makes
it.
them happy.
Right. Oh, that's nice. And so all these people that are writing about this now, they're always like, they always say that kind of at the end. Like, if it wouldn't make the Chatan and Kala happy, then you should definitely not do this. So I'll definitely leave you with that as well. I'm happy to stick around and answer questions. Also, I'm kind of vaguely still new to Chicago. I've been at Anshe Shalom for the last 7 months. But if there's anyone here I haven't met yet, you should definitely make your way down to Lakeview. We're always happy to welcome you into our community, feed you, house you, teach you some Torah. So thank you.
And Limud is going to be there.
Oh, on Thursday night. Yeah. We have a wonderful event with Yafa Epstein, you're here, and Rabbanit Leah Sarna in conversation.
Very
So
nice,
that's
thank
great.
you,
I'm
brother.
glad you're here. I'm glad you're here and haven't.
Okay, Kendra, so there's some food down there, and then Ms. Mary Novak's session is gonna be in that food room. We've actually the patent straight down, and I'll be in this room here, starting in, I guess, 8 minutes.
Yeah, very nice.
So maybe if you hold on to something Kala, which you don't have to, the Rosh Hashanah doesn't, right? Then you're possibly motzi the chazan.
The first one,
Yes.
the subsequent one, there's no, you're not being motzi anyone anything.
That's kind of what Rabbi Landy would say. You're being motzi yourself, the mitzvah of the Sameh Chazan Kala.
Unless it's motzi other people like a Birkat name, you can be motzi other people with a Birkat name.
But it's not what's the mandate in that
Yeah,
case. It's clearly a birkat mitzvah. It seems like it's a birkat mitzvah on a ben adam l'chavira, which is weird. It's like maybe the only example of that.
Exactly.
Wallowski
I'll
has an
ask
early article, yeah.
But he has it. He talks about it.
Yeah. Yes, people read about it earlier in English and publicized it, yeah. Go ahead, good job.
They're like, oh, it was so obvious.
She's a fabulous physics teacher. The kids all have.
Regular place.
Hang out with you.
Oh, very nice.
I just wanted to say thank you. I'm a Lakeview expat. We were there for like a decade, but we left like 2 months before you got hired. So
What's your name?
Mike Silver.
Mike Silver. Oh, it's familiar.
So we were there for a long time and moved up here.
Regretting every minute.
I mean, look, I love it up here, but like the city, like we didn't live because we wanted to. We loved because we could afford Skokie and we could afford Lakeview with 2 kids. But thank you, and everybody has been saying wonderful things about you. I'm so excited to have you.
So far, it's been a good fit.
We were sad that we didn't overlap. I went to Brandeis and so I never took your dad because I was in the education program and I didn't have any like choices of what to take basically, but
What's it called?
I don't know. I graduated. No, I don't know where it's back like this little tiny. Anyway. Do you want your texts back? Do you want these?
Not really.
Have you studied very carefully whether or not how true it is that Nashim is normally associated with those? I mean, if 30% of the time, if there's 80 other,
You want numbers? I don't have numbers, but like my sense is. And I got backup from other ladies. So
Yes, you did. Well, he also got backup from one of the sources.
Rabbi Henkin.
He's making the same assumption.
Yeah.
But I'm still a little skeptical. Notwithstanding Rabbi Henkin's. Even if, because it wouldn't take that large of a minority of places for Nashim to be, you don't have to say that a significant portion of
But then the question
curious to know.
even if it's not always there, the fact that it isn't straightforwardly
It
it's
opens
not
the
there
door.
here, at least opens the door, and then
For
you can make all
sure.
sorts of other arguments about like what is actually happening here. And I think like the like historical argument in this particular type of mitzvah to me doesn't speak to me. Like we have Birkat and Gomel, if you read these texts.
Historical argument meaning
Women didn't historically do it, therefore it's usher. Like Birkat
Move on,
and
man,
Gomel is an example where you have early people saying women must make Birkat and Gomel. Oh, they're not. Let's like figure out what to do about it. And also Zimun, where like right the Rush list, it's like obligatory for them to make Zimun together. And then like the Mishnah Berurah is like, oh well, why? Or maybe the Magen Rav, one of them. I'm sorry, I'm not teaching on that at this moment. It says like, oh well, they're not because they don't know how to read. Right? And so it's not that they like shouldn't do it.
in a new world where they know how to read, then it's
right.
It's
And
not
so this would be like another example, just like that.
He was senior when my son was a freshman. Sure. Benjamin Fleischer.
Oh, sure, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I used to see him when he
Oh, yeah, sure, great. I was not. I haven't not.